Welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be going over how you can survive the heat here in Las Vegas during the summer. Alright, so like I said, this video is going to be going over some ways to escape the heat while you're living here in Las Vegas during the summer months. And let's just face the elephant in the room. Yes, I did shave my head. I don't know if I'm going to keep it like this. I just decided last night that I wanted to shave it. I've been debating it for a while, and my hair grows fairly quick. It's always been pretty short, so if I decide to grow it back, it'll be back in 3 weeks anyway, so not a big deal. But just hopping right into this video, there's tip number one. You can get a shorter haircut. So if you're somebody with longer hair, now if you're a female, this probably isn't really an option for you unless you prefer short hair. But for men out there, if you are constantly out here in the heat, having a shorter haircut is going to help you significantly. You're not gonna have this big head of hair on your head. You're not gonna have gel in your hair that's like melting, that's sweating, that's running down into your eye. Because as men, most of us like to at least still take care of our hair when we have hair. And usually you put gel, you put spray, you put something in your hair. And when you sweat, it starts to run around and it starts to just fall apart. So that would be, I guess, tip number one. I wasn't even planning on putting that in the video, but since I wanted to address the haircut, I threw that one in there. But moving on to tip number two. Tip number two would be make sure you have plenty of water. Specifically, if you're coming here to visit, you're not from Las Vegas, you're not used to any dry heat, you definitely want to be drinking a ton of water. So you need to have a gallon a day, pretty much, if you're going to be outside or spend any time outdoors during the summer months. I always keep a gallon of water with me. I have one right here next to my desk that I always just keep, and I drink one of those a day, basically, sometimes more, depending on how much activity I'm doing. But specifically, if you're visiting or you're from the East Coast, you're from a more humid environment, you're maybe not used to the dry heat, the thing to be aware of is the dry heat will sneak up on you. You don't necessarily know how hot you are or how hot it is always outside based on just how you feel or the temperature. And what I mean by that is when you're in a humid environment, like where I'm from in Florida, you sweat a lot when it's hot. You know it's brutally hot and your body is sweating to let you know that it's hot. Here in the dry heat, you're still sweating, but the problem is it's so dry that your sweat is just evaporating so fast that you may not even realize how much water you're losing. So you can become dehydrated very easily if you do not stay hydrated. Even just something as simple as getting gas at the gas station when it's 115 degrees out and the black tar, heats up and it's just brutally hot right there. So you always want to make sure that you have a bottle of water anytime you're spending any time outdoors, preferably 2 or 3 bottles of water, and just try to drink at least a gallon throughout the day. Tip number 3 would be to walk in the shade when possible. So whether you are walking on the Strip or you're walking downtown, there are quite a few covered areas that you can walk through, or if you just are locally walking around in the Vegas area, just try to find some sort of shade if you can. If you're gonna sit by the pool and you want to get a little bit of a tan, sit out in the sun for a little bit, but then make sure you get under an umbrella. You don't want to be exposing yourself to all of the ultraviolet rays throughout the day and just letting your sun bake and bake and bake. There's some people here that are like 70, 80 years old and you see them, and because of the dry weather, there's not moisture in the air. People who spend a lot of time in the sun out here, they get leather skin. I mean, they look really, really old very fast because of just how dry it is and the sun just like baking and crisping you up. So always try to walk in shade when you can. If you're out on the Strip, some of the casinos are actually connected, so you can walk right through. I know from Mandalay Bay to Luxor, I believe over to Excalibur, if I'm not mistaken. I believe you can walk through all of those hotels. If not, I know that the Luxor and the Mandalay Bay are at least connected, and you may have to spend some brief time outdoors between the two. Another option would be to ride the tram as well if you're going to be doing the Strip. Use the tram that runs up and down from the south end all the way up to the SLS, just to get around so that you're not walking in the heat, because I'm telling you, it gets brutally hot out there during these summer months, and you do not want to be a victim of a heat stroke. It's nothing to play around with. Like I said, if you're from a more humid environment, you will not feel the heat as easily. I have friends that have come and visited here from Florida, and it's happened a few times where they overheat, they have to sit in the shade, drink a bunch of water, cool down, and they're on the verge of almost having a heat stroke because they're just not hydrated, they're not used to the heat, and not enough time being spent in the shade. So make sure you spend some time in the shade if you're here in the summer. Tip number 4 would be during the summer, obviously try to spend time in the shade when you can, try to be indoors when you can, but if you are gonna be spending any time outside, whether that's at the pool, whether that's walking down the strip, whether that's walking to the store or wherever it is that you are heading to, make sure that you apply some sort of an SPF. I would suggest SPF 15 at the bare minimum, but I would always go higher than that, especially on your face, maybe like an SPF 50 or a 60, just because you do not wanna get burnt, especially if you're here on vacation. If you get some sort of a sunburn, it can literally destroy your entire trip. I've had times where back when I was a kid, we were younger, we went to the beach on the West Coast, we go to Siesta Key down in Sarasota, and I did not put sunscreen on my face. And I don't know about you guys, but I experienced where my eyelids actually got burnt. And the next day I could not like open my eyes at all, like barely. I could barely open my eyes because my eyelids were burnt, and there was all kinds of like, you know, my eyes were like crusted shut because they were just so burnt and just torched. So make sure that you are applying some sort of SPF, especially to your face, and a higher SPF at that. If you want to go lower on your, you know, arms or your body, that's okay. I would suggest obviously still going higher, but on your face, make sure you apply like an SPF 50 or 60. All right, now before we get into tip number 5, if you guys are liking this video, make sure you smash that thumbs up button. If you're new to the channel, you're enjoying this type of content, make sure you subscribe down below and hit the little notification bell. That way you get notified when I post a new video. And if you guys have any comments, suggestions, or anything that you'd like to hear about in any future videos, drop them down below. All right, and tip number 5, guys, is going to be if you're doing any sort of errands as far as grocery shopping, going to CVS, going and getting prescription refills, going to the gas, anything that you're gonna be spending time outdoors, try to do it either before the sun rises or after the sun sets. I know that does not leave a lot of people with much time, especially if you are limited based on your work hours. If you work, you know, 9 to 5, you may not be able to necessarily always do this because the sun is setting right now at about 8:30. And if you're gonna go grocery shopping late, you could be pushing that to 10, 11 p.m. and then you still need to get some sleep, obviously. So try to work this into your schedule as best as you can, but even just going in your car and driving and not having tint on your windows, your arms can get sunburnt, your face can get sunburnt, and not only that, but your car gets brutally hot here in the summer. So my suggestion would be, if you can, just try to do everything early in the morning or late at night. Personally, I like to do my grocery shopping late at night because there's really nobody there. Most people are shopping when they get off of work or midday or whatever the time may be. But if I go at 8, 9, 10 p.m., it's typically really, really empty. I can get in, get what I need. I'm not having cart wars with anybody, and there's no lines at the register. Usually I just go in, I get out, and I get my stuff, and I'm good to go, and I come home. So those would be my top 5 tips for you guys if you're coming here during the summer. Again, whether you are traveling, you're visiting, you live here, you're new to the area, you're considering moving here, whatever it may be for you specifically, those are my top 5 tips to help you avoid the summer heat here in Las Vegas. And besides that, guys, besides those 3 months, it's beautiful here. The weather, typically when you get into October, is in the 80s, and then you get into the 70s and 60s in November. December, January, you get into the 50s and 40s. You know, and then it doesn't get super hot again until the end of June. So if you can just endure those 3 months and you're thinking about moving here, this would be a great option for you. If you're just visiting, I would say personally the best time to come and visit would be like October or April. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. And if you're not yet subscribed, again, make sure you subscribe down below. That way you never miss out on a future video. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.